Well, this is the sound of a Nottinghamshire woodland falling asleep. The birds are having their final song on what's been an absolutely beautiful day. It was like midsummer today. No, it wasn't chucking it down with rain. It was blue skies and wall-to-wall sunshine and very warm. The temperature is starting to drop a little bit now here at Treswell Wood. I'm at the far end of Treswell Wood and it's a beautiful night. There's no breeze, clear skies, so the temperature will drop, but it's forecasted to stay in double figures. Let's see what Treswell Wood can turn up. Well, we're off and running here at Treswell Wood. The light is starting to slowly warm up and brighten. It will brighten quite noticeably in a minute or two. So, hoping for a good night tonight. I've already put the jumper on. That's not a sign that it's cold. It just feels a little bit sort of damp, but it shouldn't do because we've had no rain at all. The lovely day, as I mentioned, and hopefully there will be quite a few moths. So 21:10 is the start of this trapping session here at Treswell Wood. Well, it's a beautiful evening for moth trapping. I have to make the most of the weather conditions. Beautiful day today, as I mentioned. You wouldn't have thought that it was spring, but it was glorious, and the night looks set to be glorious in its darker kind of way. Good thing about moth trapping is, as I mentioned before many times, it's the unpredictability. What will you get? What will come into the light? Some things that you expect, and then occasionally things that you don't expect or you've forgotten about perhaps. I have to bring up muslin moth again. It seems that everybody is enjoying catching them except myself. Friend in Worksop, he had one in his garden last night, and another friend in Southwell, both in Nottinghamshire, he had 3. I still can't get one for love nor money. I think I'd probably dance around if one turned up. Maybe not. Just be nice to get one though, but it's always great not knowing. When I used to be a meteor astronomer, that's all I used to do at one time with Gary Wilson. Many times I've always been a bit of a night owl. The big attraction of that for us was the not knowing. Even on nights when there wasn't a known meteor shower active, you never knew what you was going to get, what kind of rates you were going to get, whether you were going to get a bright fireball. You never knew, and that was a big attraction. That was another wonderful hobby as well. Spent many nights observing meteors. And here the local muntjac is awake. Well, with the accompaniment of 2 muntjacs, they've not shut up, they've been calling like that and barking at each other consistently and continuously ever since I arrived here. But we have some moths at last. I've had to wait about 45 minutes before the first moth came in, and it was the first of 2 pale tussocks. Just go through the list of what it has come in. Single brimstone so far, and single lunar marble brown, 2 pale prominent. That's a species which seems to be having a good year, at least based on the numbers of moths that I'm catching. Oak tree pug, single common pug, and a pebble prominent. On the micro front, a single Monopus levigella, which is one of 2 very similar species, really, which need a lot of care if trying to identify them from photographs. It is possible from photographs. So we see what else comes in. It's a beautiful night. Just wish those 2 would shut up sometime, at least for 5 minutes. Now I know that there's 1 or 2 subscribers to this channel that like them big. I'm talking moths here, of course, and I'm talking this big. This is a fabulous poplar hawk moth. It's the first hawk moth of the year, and as you can see, they are quite chunky monkeys. Absolutely beautiful things these are. This one actually just came in and walloped us on the back of the neck. That was the first I knew about its appearance, when it tried to mug me. But what a fabulous moth. When Dillis and I used to do mini beast hunts or displays at the Sherwood Forest Visitor Centre many years ago, we would trap moths the night before and then have either a cage full or moths in pots for people to look at, especially children. And children loved these kind of things, these larger moths. Never disappointed anybody a hawk moth, and they don't disappoint me, no matter what species it is. And this, of course, poplar hawk moth, extremely common. This will come thudding into your light, even in your urban or suburban garden. These are everywhere, and I'm glad they are too. They're a fabulous moth, they really are. So that's poplar hawk moth, probably the largest moth that we'll be trapping this evening, and it's a real stonker of a thing, isn't it? Well, here's a moth which is new for the year, and of all the pugs that you could wish to have as easy to identify as possible, this is it. This is a lime speck pug, and it's absolutely beautifully marked. As you can see, the ground colour is quite whitish to cream. There's darker areas of greys and almost like 2 eye spots, 1 on each wing near that leading edge. And the abdomen as well. The abdomen is black and the thorax is white, and the end of the abdomen is also tipped white. It's a beautiful moth, it really is. And say, it's new for the year too, just come in. So if you want an easy to identify pug, then lime speck pug fits that bill exactly. And here's another predominantly white and grey moth. This is a moth that I have showed you before, and it's a leaves to black archers. It is small. I'd say there are some tortrix that are equal in size to this, if not just fractionally larger, and it is a macro moth. It's a beautiful moth too, and as I mentioned in a recent video, you can often find this resting during the day on tree trunks, and it will be resting head downwards. For some reason they always do. But a nice little moth, and a moth which is active right throughout April and into May. So that's leaves black archers. Well, it's very slow, much slower than I was expecting, I must admit. As you can see, we're approaching probably on 20 species by now, but I was expecting more. They may well come in yet. It's 22:40, so we've been here, what, a good hour and a half. Moths are steadily coming in. The commonest at the moment, pale tussock and Monopus levigella, with 7 apiece at the moment. But we'll see what comes in. Well, it's been a strange kind of night. The temperature is dropping. It's currently down at 11 centigrade. That's what it was forecasted to drop down to at the end of the night, although that may have been in more urban areas rather than in the middle of a deciduous woodland like Treswell Wood here. But of the new species that have come in, the nut tree tussock, one has come in, and there's possibly a second which is still racing around somewhere. A very attractive moth, and if I can I'll try and get some footage and add that in a bit. But mottled pug has come in, a single engrailed, small phoenix is another one, and peach blossom. What a fabulous moth peach blossom is. Beautiful, they really are beautiful. I'll put a photo in because it's done a typical peach blossom. They come in, they buzz around a bit, and then they promptly usually disappear. Chinese character is another one that's in. Orange footman is new for the year, and there's currently 2 of those in. And then other new moths in, waved umber and green carpet. Don't know what that was near the camera. So we're doing well. We're on to about 24, 25 species now altogether. But the night does feel slightly cool, and I think the temperature is going to drop below 10. So we'll see what moths come in the next hour or so. I think now it's time for a cup of tea. Well, here's one of the now 2 nut tree tussocks which are in. Very distinctive patterning and coloration. This is quite typical of what you get with nut tree tussocks. It's almost a moth of 2 halves, you could say, to use a footballing analogy. The basal half of the wings are a dark chocolate brown, and towards the outer part of the wing it's generally quite a dirty, almost scruffy greyish colour. But it's a very nice moth to see actually, and get good numbers in these woods such as Gamston and Eaton Woods and Treswell Wood here, and it was very common in the Sherwood Forest Country Park area. So that's a nice one for tonight's list. There may well be another one that's just suddenly appeared at the far end of the sheet. So that's nut tree tussock, cracking little species. And here's a nice early coronet. When I first saw this come into the light, it was buzzing around and it just appeared dark, and I didn't have a clue what it was. And now that it's settled down, I can see that it is a coronet, and say it's very dark. In general coloration, this is probably just like a dirty dark olive green, and they are very nicely and quite intricately marked. And the only really sort of notable marking on it that stands out is that stigmata in the middle of the forewings there, that circular area. But this one appears to have been in the wars, or at least has had some damage to it on emergence from the chrysalis, and hence the bold patch on the top of the thorax there. So that was an early coronet. Well, it's just coming up to 1/4 midnight, and the temperature has gone down to 9 degrees centigrade, and because of that, and it does feel cool too. I'm glad that I did bring a jumper with me today, because I did need it, to be honest. There's very few moths really coming in. Just the only new species that have come in since the last update are single brindled pug and a single foxglove pug 2, and a couple of scalloped hazel new for the year. So it's been an interesting session. In some ways a little bit disappointing, because I thought that after the good session had at Lown Wood the other night that this would be even better, I must admit, but it turns out not to be. But there again, It's several degrees cooler this evening than it was at Loudwood on the 28th of April. So a steady pack up it is.